So our guest for the show, happily, is Tadia Rice of the Rice Consulting Group. Welcome to the show, Tadia.
Mahalo, Jay. Thank you so much for having me. It's a joy to talk with you.
So let's talk about your book. What's in your book? Why did you write your book? What audience do you expect will take a look at your book, and how will it help?
I hope that everybody will take a look at the book because it's really written for everybody. It is a book that is non tech in many ways. It's a comprehensive exploration of artificial intelligence, of AI, the word that has permeated our society, for those who have a deep sense of curiosity. I have been a curious individual all my life, and that's what led me to go down the rabbit hole of artificial intelligence. I didn't know at the time that it was going to explode on me. And it's been a wonderful explosion. And given that I also am involved with ethics, I really looked at it at first from an ethics perspective. But then the more I thought about it, I said, I have a lot of questions for AI. So I took about 8 platforms and I started asking questions. Actually, one of my friends told me I've become a renegade warrior for AI literacy for the masses, for the public. And that's true. That is true. I think everyone needs to know. I don't care if you're 12 or if you're 112. You need to know about AI because you're using it whether you know it or not. Beyond Bars, Prison Women Speak was a 10-year project at the only women's prison in Hawaii. When I went in, I had no idea what I was doing. One of my friends was the chaplain. I met her. I said, why do you go in there? Why do you do this? Why do you waste your time? You know, these are throwaway people. They did a crime, let them do the time. They're wasting my taxpayer money. I did. I said that. She said, well, why don't you just come in and meet the women? I said, I don't really, it's not my thing to do prison. And so I went with her. And in that day, my life changed. And there was a spiritual awakening in me that said, you could be them. You could be here. One bad decision, and you would be them. And then I really had to think about what I would do. I said to her, well, what do they need? Why don't you give them what they need? And she said, they need education. They need confidence. They need training. I said, well, give it to them. And she said, well, put your money where your mouth is and you do it. Without thinking, I said, okay, I will. And then I thought, oh, what the hell did I just say? So I made a commitment and I had to act on it, and I really didn't know how. I'd already trained leaders and CEOs. I'd never trained prisoners. I'd never trained people, female felons. My life changed with this project. And as Olitha spoke about compassion and understanding, I had to really go deep inside and figure out who I was after getting to know who they were. So with that said, I spent 10 years eventually creating a dramatic performance that, as you saw, that was for Black History Month. We did 2 shows. They were broadcast on the public access stations in Hawaii. The women wrote their own shows. The women said what they wanted to do. Many were afraid to speak. Nobody wanted to be on camera. They were shy. They were afraid. They wanted to be anonymous. They didn't want people to know who they were. They were full of shame. They were broken when they got there, and the prison broke them more. And those of us on this panel know that. And so what do you do with broken human beings? When you realize you're broken, it's not so hard. So I then designed how to create a show for them to participate in. They were involved in every bit of processing, from lighting, from writing, from dancing. They choreographed their own dances. They picked their music. They created their show, and that gave them tremendous empowerment. And that was the point: build confidence, build self-esteem, develop confidence, so they would take the next step and go further in uplifting their lives, in preparing to leave so that they could be of value to their families and their children first, and then to society.
Tadia Rice.
I think I'm going to move down to the floor since we are a fairly intimate audience, and I'm going to be having some visuals for you to study. So if that is all right with you, I would like to get a little bit closer. You know, we only have a little bit of time to spend together, and I have learned in all these years of speaking and training and appearing that when you have time with others, you want to make it count.
So, if you can all hear me this way, it's fine with me. In the back, can you hear me? Very good. I thank you for allowing me to come and share this time with you. And because it is Women's Equality Day in the United States, and you've read this story about Representative Bella Abzug and how she made this happen, I really want to focus on gender equality and men and women. How many men do we have here? You are in the minority, boys. Oh my goodness. We are a lot of women here, aren't we? This is wonderful. I will be the first to acknowledge that there are differences in men and women. And Homer and Marge typify that. There are physical differences between us, aside from what is obvious on the outside. There's a lot of internal things we need to be aware of with one another for our health and our understanding. There's differences in how our brains work, the size of our brains, what happens to our brains, whether it's dopamine or hormone. How we process information is also differently. How our heart and circulatory system works differently. So please take a moment and review these differences. When it gets down to the stomach, it basically explains that Homer can't really hold his beer, even though he tries. Men are very weak when it comes to alcohol in their system, and so alcoholism is very rampant in men more than it is in women. So I would like to ask us if we can possibly re-perceive this issue of femininity and masculinity and view gender maybe through the metaphor of an eagle. Now, not only is this eagle our wonderful national bird, a powerful, powerful animal, but it is an incredible opportunity for us to learn how we can be like this eagle. Wouldn't it be nice if we could have a vision as strong as theirs? Their vision is more clear, more powerful, 8 times more powerful than ours. So when they're flying at 15,000 feet at 35 miles an hour, they can see prey on the ground and access it. Now, what does that mean? It means that they will survive. They do not become the prey. They find the prey. So if we are going to be like this eagle, this magnificent species, with the ability to see better, to be stronger, to fly higher, to fly faster, to excel and to exceed, let's use them as the metaphor. Their wings are very strong. So I'd like to think that we as humans are the men and women, we are the wings of humanity. And one wing is men, and one wing is woman. But without both wings developed, our species is not going to excel or exceed any limitations. We're going to do what? What happens when a bird's wing is injured? How does the bird fly? In circles, hits the ground, dies, remains injured, and when it's on the ground, what happens to that bird? Is that a natural way to live for the bird? No. That's right, it becomes prey. It does not excel, it does not exceed. So what happens is, if we see ourselves as the eagle, and we know that we have to develop both of our wings equally, that men must develop and women deserve to develop, we must ensure and invest in our children so that they are fully functional and that they are powerful, more powerful than every preceding generation. They will be those 2 strong wings of the bird of humanity. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep.